Welcome to Tuesday, the second day of July, 2024. This Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Wyoming State Parks. Why wonder about the outdoors in Wyoming? Explore the statewide interactive outdoor recreation wonder map to find your next adventure. As we head through this Tuesday, we're going to be looking at, over the course of the next few days, some subtle changes in the weather. Not happening all at once, but the pattern is changing. We've had a pattern lately for the last several weeks that's been dominated by a fairly robust feed of subtropical moisture coming up through Mexico, parts of the southwestern United States, then curving around the high pressure ridge in the south central United States. And this has led to a fairly active period where thunderstorm activity has been fairly common. And while not everybody's gotten the rain they've wanted, and there's many areas that need a lot more, some of you have been able to get some rain. This all depends on where you are. But we're going to hit a patch here where the shift in the weather pattern, starting with the cooler air that's going to settle on in, there's going to be a shifting around of the high pressure systems across the lower 48. So we're going to go through a drier cycle here. It will certainly be cooler, as you'll see here in a moment, across the northern and central Rockies and northern plains through the next 5 to 6 days or so. While we're going to have some very hot weather develop in California, parts of the desert southwest, the western slope of Wyoming, but especially the western slope of Colorado, the Four Corners area, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, you've been able to pick up some good rain. You're going to get a drier trend as the subtropical moisture feed is going to get turned down significantly by the end of this week and into next week. So the western side of the divide, certainly a warmer, drier trend is coming. Now the hot weather that we're going to have in the west will be focused in the far west through this 4th of July weekend. With that heat further west, the high pressure ridge further west, that's what opens the door to cooler Canadian air. But what will happen as we peer out a little bit further is that high pressure ridge will go east out of California, more towards the Rockies, and that's when the Rockies and the high plains will go through a period of some hot weather. That's going to be happening early to mid next week. So enjoy the mild, relatively cool July weather that's coming, because the heat certainly towards the middle of July will be moving on in. But not before. We still have some showers and thunderstorms. You can see a faint rainbow there. Some nice rain in the Gypsum, Colorado area over the last week or so, with that western slope picking up those afternoon and evening thunderstorms, and they've been good rain producers. Not so much a good rain producer here with some showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Front Range of Wyoming and Colorado yesterday. There's a great shot of some non-convective induced mammatus clouds that will eventually start to produce virga, then a little bit of light rain. They look mean, but they really didn't do much. Nonetheless, it makes for a great photo. The satellite imagery this morning shows a trough, a weak trough coming through. You can see the axis here and the moisture associated with it. Underneath these clouds, we did have some overnight showers and thunderstorms in many areas. Here's that dry air and high pressure that's just off to the west, and you can really see it in the satellite image. So what will happen eventually here in the coming days is this deeper moisture will be shunted more to the east and more to the south. This drier air will punch in more onto the western slope, then getting a little bit east of the divide later on into the forecast period. But when you look at the wind patterns and the way things are going to evolve, you'll be able to see why the weather will end up being a little bit different. This is by noon today, so you can see this punch of dry air coming in and out of the deserts going right down Interstate 80. It's going to kind of pinch off. We will have some deeper moisture sit down here to keep showers and thunderstorms going for a few more days, but this brown is going to really eliminate the widespread and good rain-producing coverage of showers and thunderstorms. When we look at the drier air getting deeper, look at the drier air getting pushed in further south and further east and covering a good part of the west as we go into the day tomorrow. The moisture gets stretched out, and this is where you're going to see the shower and thunderstorm activity in the coming days, while this drier air settles into the west. Notice, though, it's wanting to stay west of the divide, and we're going to kind of see that, at least here initially. The upper level pattern at 500 millibars at 18,000 feet shows the jet stream configured like this. High pressure in the southeast, high pressure off the west coast means you're going to have somewhat of a trough coming in right here. So this is why along and east of the divide, cooler air is going to be having easier access into the Rockies and Northern Plains. Remember, when there's a ridge here, we go into a fridge here. Now, it's not going to be terribly cold, nothing off the charts, but certainly mild July weather is coming because this configuration is going to be rather stubborn. So this is for tomorrow, and this is by Friday. The high pressure builds, but see the winds aloft coming in along and east of the divide or from the northwest. So hot here, cooler here. And then when we look at by the time we get into Sunday, the high pressure ridge builds even more, and so there's a flow coming in from the northwest. So what side of the divide you're on is going to really dictate where the heat's going to be. Certainly it's going to boil here in the far west, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, California, the Central Valley. Those areas get ready for the heat. However, a large part of the upper Midwest and Northern Plains will have the exact opposite. Temperatures much cooler than average. So if we step through the temperature anomalies, this is where we're going to be today. So you can see a lot of blue and a lot of green there. Anywhere you see blue or green, the temperatures will be below the 30-year average. The reds, the oranges, above average temperatures. The white means you're close to average. So this is today. This is for Wednesday. Now notice on Wednesday, there's a little push of warmth coming right up along the Front Range. Some of that heat comes over the mountains, but there's a lot of coolness that has just spilled east of the divide there. So that's Wednesday, and this is for the 4th of July. So you'll see a huge contrast. Really hot there, quite cool across Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska, into eastern Colorado, even into the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Going to cool off a little bit. So as we showed you yesterday, certainly these are going to be very comfortable temperatures. These are the forecasted high temperatures for the 4th of July. You can see the suppression of the heat to the west and to the south, but there's a lot of real estate here, a lot of Canada, a lot of the central and northern Rockies and the northern high plains. Those are some really comfortable. And look at these temperatures here in northern Wyoming, downright cool. Those are highs that we're going to see on Thursday. We're also going to have a little bit of upslope as that cooler air spills east of the divide. This is the precipitation forecast for the 4th of July. So you can see Montana, the Dakotas, parts of northern and eastern Wyoming. You may have some clouds, some shower and thunderstorm activity. As we showed you yesterday, there's a hint of some upslope right along the Front Range of southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. As that cool air gets pushed upslope, will produce probably some low clouds, maybe some shower activity. Nothing that's going to be heavy, but notice the void of precipitation west of the divide and in the southwestern United States by the 4th. It's because that drier air is coming in, suppressing that subtropical moisture down to there. Now, it will come back, as we'll see here in a moment, but there is definitely a pattern shift. We showed you this yesterday, the higher peaks of Wyoming's northern and western mountains and the mountains of southwest Montana. This is above timberline. This is very high, but it's going to be cool enough this week for some snow showers up there. This is by Friday. So notice the cool air is still well entrenched east of the divide. West of the divide, you're getting hot. But east of the divide into Friday, temperatures are going to stay very mild, very comfortable. Then as we step through the rest of the weekend, the cool air gradually begins to thin out. This is Saturday, and this is by Sunday. So west of the divide, you heat up. East of the divide, even on Sunday, temperatures are just a little bit below average. But look at the heat. This is eventually coming this way. And this is going to be happening next week. This is the 5-day temperature anomaly, so you can see that patch of blue right there. The patch of heat right here, the eastern part of the United States, a little bit above average, but nothing crazy. As we go into the weekend and beyond, things are going to change. Now, this is next weekend, the weekend of the 13th and the 14th. I wanted to show you where the high is going to be. This is where the heat dome is going to end up shifting. So this is going to take a while, but the heat in the far west will come east, and this is when the middle to the end of next week, be ready for the heat in the Rockies and the western high plains. We're also going to have to wait a bit for the subtropical moisture flow to get going again. The clockwise rotation around the high will eventually start to increase the subtropical moisture, but there's going to be a patch of hotter, drier weather in the Intermountain West with this pattern change. So we won't see nearly as many thunderstorms for probably a 5 or 7 day period. And we're going to get the heat. This is 10 days from now. The precipitable water is showing a lot of brown coming on through here. This doesn't mean there won't be thunderstorms. There just won't be nearly as many as we've been experiencing. We have to wait for this next plume of moisture, and here it is. So by late next week, we start to see another deeper plume of moisture coming into Mexico, and it's going to want to come up and come around. And that we see happening right around the 15th to the 17th of July. If you look historically at when we talk about the North American monsoon or the monsoon season in the western United States, well, a lot of times the middle to the end of July into early August is when there's usually an uptick, and this is exactly what we're seeing. So do expect things to be a bit different. First it'll be cool, then it's going to get hot. Have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.